Okay, so here we are in Metro Exodus. We'll start at 1080p and we'll turn that up. So we'll go 1080p high. Yeah, so you can see there we are dropping down a little bit. Still above 30 though. So really not that bad. But you can see here when we're looking at, the open world and, panning a lot and there's the stuff on the screen. It does drop down close to 30 when there's stuff on the mask. But again, we're at 1080p and like basically max. There's no visual glitches. Everything's running totally fine. I went through the story and everything was fine, but it looks great. So we'll just go with medium and see how it performs. Obviously it's going to work, but I just want to see if we can get closer to 60. Again, you could always turn down the resolution to 720p, but it's not required. It looks like the M2 chip is able to do a lot of games at 1080p, sometimes even 1440p or 4K, but even demanding games. Metro is still pretty demanding. It's not an old title. It's from 2019. So I mean, if we're able to run this at 1080p with high quality, that's pretty impressive actually from a little iGPU. Okay, so this is medium now, and it looks like we've jumped up a fair bit. So 52, lows of 50, of 48 or so. So you could play this on high 1080p and you'll be fine, but I think you're probably going to want to play it on medium, to be honest. The reason is, it doesn't lose a lot of fidelity, but it's just a little more stable. And I think, when you get into really demanding parts of the game, you're going to want that stability, to be honest. Like you can see here, it's not tanking during fighting. Okay, so let's test some CSGO, which is apparently a popular game. CSGO on what I'm assuming is just basically the, which is just whatever the default is. FPS are extremely high, obviously, because you can see in the top there. I can't get the complicated one to work, but this is fine. It does have the Steam settings in the top. So I don't know, let's just turn these settings up as much as we can. So those things all seem to be turned up quite a bit. So whatever, it's turned up, it's 1080p, it's turned way up. I couldn't find any other settings to turn up, but it seems to be fine. Oh, you get slow when you get shot, okay. Okay, we are going to test at 1440p. I just really want to see what the difference is. 1080p is probably fine in this game, but let's try 1440p and still running really well, above 60. There was a dip there, but I think that was loading. Okay. All right, let's try this again without dying instantly. To some random sniper. What's that? No idea. Alright, so here we are in Shadow of Mordor, Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor. We're at 1080p here, and seems to be running fine. It's like kind of last-gen console playable. Over here, when there's not a lot going on, it's 45. When there's more, it's going to dip down a bit. Yeah, so it's running pretty well, 30 FPS or so at 1080p. But let's change the settings a touch here. Ambitious. So we're at 1080p. Let's turn the graphics down just a touch here. So we're at pretty high, like high, ultra, ultra, ultra high. So let's turn these down to, I don't know, let's just go with medium to start. And see how that goes. All right, so let's try that same scene here again on medium settings, what I'll call medium settings at 1080p, and this is more playable. I wouldn't play the game at high, mix, whatever, ultra. It was pretty ambitious, but this is really good. 40 FPS for a game like this is fine.
So, we missed one of you at Narcos, eh? An easy mistake to fix.
All right, let's try a little bit of a more ambitious battle here outdoors. So this is still 1080p. on basically medium. You could turn it down further. I don't think you have to turn the resolution down to like 720p or anything, but you know, we can take a visual assessment. It's more about the visual assessment anyways. So 1440p with whatever the default settings are, it's running totally fine. Absolutely above 60 FPS. No question there. So that should be enough zombie proofing for a moment. Let's play with the settings now. So yeah, let's turn it up to 4K and just see how it runs. So it's 4K native screen, so we'll just go with that. That's 4K. Let's go have a look at the water. Yeah, it's running really well actually. Let's turn the settings up a bit. I think there's some, you know, like more fancy-ish settings we can turn up here. So let's, oh, it doesn't like it. Let's go fabulous. It doesn't seem to like, it seems to be angry about it, but yeah, it's not running above 60 now on fabulous. It's not running bad, like it's probably running above 30, but it's definitely not, you can see it's it's janky. So 1440p. Fabulous. Oh yeah, that's good. So 4K on the M2 Mac Mini, at least the base chip. 4K, you're going to want to have it at fancy settings. At 1440p, fabulous. It's fine. This is really good, actually. Deus Ex, or Deus Ex, however you say that. Mankind Divided. And we're at 1080p. Yeah, so basically 1080p medium. And this is actually running really well, to be honest. 45 FPS. 45 FPS at 1080p medium is quite good. We've jumped up a bit. That must have been in the manning area. So we could probably turn the settings up a bit. I mean, this is running really well. If you want to play at 60 FPS, it looks like you just put it to 1080p and set it to medium, and away you go. But let's turn it up just a touch. I just kind of want to see what it's on when it's on, you know, high or something. All right, so now I just reloaded. We're at 1080p high presets now, and it's running still really well, well above 30. It has dropped down a bit. You know, we lost a few frames, but not much. So if this can stay up, I think high may be the way to go. The game looks great. I mean, we're rendering a lot out here. This is 1080p high. Okay, so now we're back at 1440p, but we're on medium now, and this is playable, 30. So if you're okay with console playable, which for years was a thing, totally fine. You could play like this. But if you want to get the better experience, I would say play at 1080p and throw it on high, to be honest. So let's go like that. So we'll just go basically 720p or equivalent. And now we're well above 30. If you have a 4K screen, this may not look great, but if you have a normal size screen or a 1080p or 1440p screen that's a little smaller, it should look fine. If you're on a MacBook, this would look totally fine because it's a much smaller screen. But yeah, long story short, the game runs totally fine. There's no visual issues here. It just seems to run without any problems. So you can probably turn off things like ambient occlusions and that, and get some of that kind of stuff there. We can probably turn up something. So we can turn up textures to medium so it doesn't look bad, and then keep these other things a little bit lower, and the game should look a little bit better. Yeah, so it looks better, but it didn't affect the frame rate there. So you can turn your textures up to medium, and get some decent looking textures, but then turn some of the other things down a bit. Okay, so here we are in StarCraft 2. I have the settings turned way up right now. It's at 1080p resolution, but the graphics are quite literally as high as they go. So we'll just see if it runs, to be honest, and we'll go from there. It was warning me that it wouldn't run, but it seems like it will. All right, so obviously at you can see up here the FPS is 30 or 40 or so. So up to 60. So it's 60 when there's not really much going on. Okay, so this is 1080p on high instead of whatever that was, ultra or whatever, or extreme. So it looks like we've gained actually a fair bit. We went from like 30 FPS up to 45 in those areas, and then when we're down here it looks like it's not struggling nearly as much. So I'd say high is probably the way to go.